age is a beautiful thing when you think when you look through it through the lens of our demographic, our guys. We don't age traditionally speaking like everybody else does, especially if we stay engaged with everything that made us who we were once we were when we were in uniform.
People ask me all the time. I say, look, I had to get up every morning with guys that wanted to run 5 miles. Minimum.
Yeah. I hated running with a passion. Hashtag thank you 82nd. Yeah. But as soon as I got out and as soon as I started like trying to get back and overcome some injuries, I was like, man, I'm going to run. I'm going to run a marathon someday. Maybe not now, maybe not next year.
Yeah. But
someday I'm going to get this ability back. I don't care how much massaging, I don't care how much treatment I've got to go for my feet. Someday I'm going to do this. And it's something about like when you tell us we can't do something that's like, okay, I'm going to.
Yeah. My team in Bagram, hey, they're running the Boston Marathon at Bagram here. We need to run, Doc. I'm like, we haven't been training. Yeah, but we're in Afghanistan. We've been in the mountains. We're ready. So we did it as a team and everybody finished. It took forever, but we had a good time.
It's like, we'll do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
We're going to go now. When are you going to get a Boston Marathon medal for completion?
Right?
You know? Hilarious.
Oh, welcome back. I am joined today by Doc Pete Chambers, somebody that was very influential to my success in the Q course. And you were always with me throughout the rest of my career.
Yeah.
And you never know how you impact others. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. As Green Berets, we never know the lasting impact we have. But I always look back to those moments in SEER school and other portions of the Q course. I was like, man, fucking Doc, if he can do it, I know I can do it. If he can do it. And then just having those little moments throughout the career, you know, I don't see you for months and years and years. And I'm a senior NCO going through free fall JM. And I'm like, oh shit, it's Doc Chambers. Another reminder, like, I can keep doing this. I can keep doing this. And now you're leading the fight in a different area, man. And it's so good to reconnect and see that you're kicking ass and that we all go through trials and tribulations. And before I go into what you're currently doing, I want to just catch up, man. How you been? Where have you been these last few years?
Right. Yeah. So it's been crazy, you know, and I see you out, you know, LinkedIn and stuff and see what you're doing, follow you, you know, that kind of thing. We've all been busy and it's good. That's, you know, we were just discussing what's keeping us young. I mean, it's, you know, we're as good once as we ever were, right? You know, we may not be as good as we were back then every day. It just takes longer to recoup. But, you know, I went to third group, to 2nd Battalion. And, you know, I had a great time, the best job in the world, best people in the world, took care of my guys. You know, somebody went to the hospital with their kid at 3 a.m. I'd get up and go down there and be there with them because, you know, the advocacy thing is very important. But, you know, couple pretty, you know, terrible trips, but, you know, they're serious trips, you know, and it's what we do. And it's why we're there. And I had a opportunity, when I got done to go on to a different type of unit, you know, whatever you want to call it, a higher tier thing, but that wasn't what I was about. You know, what I was about was, obviously I love unconventional warfare. I love foreign internal defense. I like people. I like to interact. I like the whole idea of our true bread and butter of what we do. You know, direct action is a necessary evil, and it's a very hard evil. And we do that, and we do it well. But the stuff that I really, you know, when I was an enlisted infantry guy in 1983 at Fort Benning, Georgia, and the Rangers were jumping into Grenada, and I'm just like, wow, you know, that's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. And the next thing I want to do is be a Green Beret. You know, and it didn't happen. I broke my leg way back then, you know, way long time ago, 85. And, you know, pins, screws, plates, got to get out. Can't do this. Got my honorable discharge 1990. Got out, went to college, went to med school. My dad was a small town doctor. I always had that in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. So I went to medical school, right? And there weren't any wars really going on. Nothing was happening. But in residency, 9/11 happened. And it changed the course for a lot of us. I talked to a kid yesterday at an event. We were raising some money. And he joined the Green Beret, and he went to 10th group, and he joined and said that he joined a couple of days after 9/11. You know, I mean, it's just that changed the course for all of us. And you think, well, we're going to go down range, we're going to finish this job, and then we're going to come home. And 20 years later, here we are, multiple trips and lots of good, bad, and ugly. But from that, though, it prepared us for a moment such as this. I'm a believer. I believe in Esther. There's a story in the book of Esther. You created for a moment such as this. And so the times have dictated my pathway. I didn't dictate my pathway. The times dictated it. I did go to the Q course. We were there together. And it's kind of nice to talk to a brother that was there with me. We run into each other. Funny thing is, it took me 3 times to get through the Q course. So I met like 3 different classes. I was mad at it at the time. I was mad, but in retrospect, I know a lot of guys, right? I just know a lot of guys. And, from selection to, all the different aspects, I got into it with a cadre on a star course. He said, you got a white light on. I'm like, brother, there's 30 guys down that draw. I'm the guy with the red light. Here it is. Number 33, I wasn't a selection. I was in going to, SUT. Anyway, then I was a heat casualty. I mean, I'll recycle another class. What's going on here? Do you really want it though? That's the thing. Do you really want it? Broke my clavicle during the course, still rucked. I mean, did what I got to do. I had a compression fracture on my infill to Robin Sage. I knew there was something wrong. I had a chute malfunction. I landed right by the bundle. I'm the 18 Alpha. I'm like, everybody's lifting me off the ground. We complete the mission. I go to Womack. They're like, why didn't you come in sooner? I'm like, because I didn't want to be recycled the 3rd time.
I'm not doing this again.
I'm so close. I've got to finish this thing. Anyway, do that. 3rd group time, awesome people. We had the direct action guys there in Bravo Company, and so I got being the long tag doctor, right? Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, you're gonna come with us. We're going to go do some hostage rescue training and all this. It was awesome. It's amazing, great stuff. Yeah. It's exactly what we do. So we're doing training and things like that. But it put me in the best place, the best possible job in the world. I get out in 2015. And I think I'm going to do the grass is greener thing, go somewhere else, maybe contract. Yeah, it's you're making some money, but it's the grass is not greener. The people are the same. I mean, we work with the same brothers. But I found an opportunity to go back to the National Guard in Texas, who has special forces units. And I was able to go to the border. And that's, in that mission, I finally realized, I'm like, for the first time, I'm in my own country protecting my border. And that was the best thing in the world, right? That was just a great feeling because I had some great people with me. I was a task force surgeon for Operation Lone Star, as well as kind of, wearing 2 hats, Green Beret liaison to the local partners down there, Border Patrol, DPS, all that. And here comes the shots, right? The shots show up. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, these guys are young. They don't need to take it. So I'm just doing the good doctor thing. I'm going by the regulations, Army Regulation 40-562, paragraph 8, chapter 8, paragraph 2 through 6. And it says EUA must do informed consents. I'm doing informed consents. I'm like basically saying, hey, picture in your mind a skull and crossbones that says mRNA on the forehead. There you go. That's my brief. Any questions? Right? Because, and I did give them a brief. I mean, I did, but, and informed consent's good, bad, and the ugly of something. So you tell them, and nobody's taking it, right? Until the command comes down and says, Doc, Texas is looking bad. You gotta give them the shots, or you're gonna have to recuse yourself from your duties. And I was like, well, sir, this is a 2-star, and the game, it's called rock, paper, rank. Well, I lost, and so I lost my job. I had 39 years total, in uniform in Army, the active Guard and Reserves, well over 20. So it was time to go to the house, right? Went to the house. But I learned a lot about that border. I learned a lot about that border in that time because I'm the guy that goes out in the middle of the night. I mean, me, and I'm going to go from, 1,250 miles of Texas border, and I'm going to hit every LPOP that's got a soldier at it, listening post, observation post. And I'm going to talk to these guys, just see what they're doing, teach them, what they need to know. These are infantry kids and some paratroopers. And all the way down the border. It was great. Engineers building fences. I was out there digging holes with them. It was great. This is what we do, right? As officers, we're responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen. But we're also, as a doctor, I'm an advocate for these guys. I'm also, special staff to the command. I weigh that. I interpose when I have to. And that with that comes a cost, right? The cost in this interposition was, hey, quit telling these guys this. I'm like, that's an unlawful order. Boom. I lose, but I didn't, because what happened was a lot of people didn't take what they didn't need. They're young. They didn't need it. They'd be fine. And we stood in the gap. So I feel very good about that. I mean, people are like, aren't you upset you lost your job on the border? I'm like, no. I mean, Lieutenant Calley in Vietnam and Me Lai, unlawful order. Now this could potentially, go one of two ways, but there's a cost. Anyway, I get out and now I am completely depressed, right? I am completely depressed in my trailer, me and my dog down there on the border. Like, I don't have a job. They're going to send me to go do, PHAs, periodic health assessments in some cubicle somewhere. I'm like, oh no. I mean, you know me. I'm like, you picture me in a cubicle? Right. No, it's not going to happen. And we'll tell some stories later. But and then I started getting the boys together, and we just started going down, some of the other retired Green Berets and some SEALs and other people live in Texas around me, and just said, let's go down and help these people on the border. Just no pay, no nothing, just go help them secure their properties, because there's some bad things happening down there. And it's a humanitarian crisis, but it's also it's also an invasion, and it's also a national security issue. The fentanyl that's coming across, laced with tranq. With tranq was xylene, which is a horse tranquilizer. That's why so many people are dying. Hundreds of thousands a year are dying from fentanyl. Right? That's chemical warfare. If we think about what the Chinese are doing right now with plussing up the cartels,
because the precursor chemicals are all from China.
Bingo.
Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about it.
But to us that see it every day, we see it every day. We know, and we've got the, at the time I had the intel, I knew that's what it was. I mean, they were telling me straight up, these are the connections between Cartel del Noreste, Nuevo Generation, Golfo, La Línea, Sinaloa. I mean, we had them all, and they're all coming in different sectors of the border. And they're trafficking humans. I mean, I'm literally stepping in the gap for 7 and 8 year old little girls. When I see a man pushing them across the border, I'm like, that's not their dad. Pull them over here.
Yeah.
Now that wasn't my job, but I'm a human being, and so I stopped that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I lose track of that girl or those kids, and I don't know where they're going to go. But the chemical warfare that took place with fentanyl, that's an invasion, because China in the 1800s was hit by both Great Britain and France with what was called the Opium Wars. And they used opium to free up trade routes so they could make more money. That's the typical story with the privateer corporations. So hasn't changed. So now I'm looking at this and going, okay, so this is what China's doing. They're reverse engineering this drug war, if you will, on us. And this is why the foreign terrorist organization moniker needs to be on, foreign transnational criminal organization, whatever. They need to be called that. Now, Governor Abbott has done that. It's an invasion now as of this year. But 2.5 years ago, when I got to the border and did a threat and vulnerability assessment on the border with some great guys from the Texas Guard, we told them, not him, his staff, look, this needs to be an invasion. This is what we do. These listening posts, observation posts are very important. However, you can't just be static. We've got to go, we've got to be mobile. We've got to move. We're playing whack-a-mole, and we should be playing, left to bang theory. We should be we should be acting before we hit the IED, not reacting after we've hit the IED. And I was hit by an IED 12 May 04, in Iraq, and grade coordinate Mike Bravo 456789. Lost my gunner, this guy on my wrist. I used to ride on my old guns at the top. I rode all the way to Baghdad on a 50 cal. And of course, got in trouble by the command, but that's another story. Doc, we only got one of you. I'm like, yeah. But I had to set the headspace and timing. He didn't know how to do it. So, all this crazy stuff. But honestly, moments such as this were created in now. Now we've set off on a new quest, an official entity called the Remnant A-Team. And the Remnant A-Team is not only just A-Team guys, but we have, guys that have done everything from targeting to logistics to, medics, SEALs. We welcome all. Now, most of it's been volunteer until this 2 days ago. 2 days ago, had our first fundraiser in Wimberley, Texas, in Central Texas, where our headquarters is. and we raised some money. Now it's not a lot, but it's seed money. It's seed money, so that we can actually go and not pull it out of our pockets, and that helps, because you run out of that after a while. There you go.
Yeah.
Long story. I made it. Hopefully not too long, but that brings us up to date. What's all happened?
Yeah, it's a very complex and dire situation that we're facing.
Right.
We're looking at if we look at the civil considerations, just focus on the immigration.
Yeah.
Like it's horrible.
Yeah.
It is a horrible situation to watch families try to make it across the border.
Yeah.
Just on the hopes and dreams they can get somewhere, make something out of themselves. That's one aspect. There's a whole other dark and very twisted. You have the human trafficking side of the house, where you have thousands of kids coming through, and they're just getting shuffled to the next hold site, and then being distributed to experience God knows the amount of horrible tragedies. Then you have the trafficking side of drugs, and then you have the untold numbers of undocumented military age males, ma'ams, that are coming here from all across the globe, that nobody wants to really focus on that aspect. Because if you're seeking asylum, why isn't there a large line of women and kids coming along with you? No, these are all single military age males. I'm claiming asylum. I'm running away from government.
That's it. And we look at the the way we think, most likely course of action to the most dangerous. I have to consider the most dangerous when I brief it, and we do. I mean, I work at a think tank as well, and we do brief people on these things based upon our experience and our what we're seeing firsthand. Got another buddy, Michael Yan. He's before our era, 10th group guy. He's down in the Darian Gap regularly, reporting to us what's happening in Panama. So I know the numbers that are coming to our border before they get there.
And that's another thing that is shocking. That is insane territory.
Right.
Now, anybody that's ever spent time in the jungle in South and Central America, it is not just like, imagine the worst draw at Fort Bragg.
Right.
During the Star Course. Scuba Road times 1,000, brother. The Darian Gap, it is a very, very, very unnavigable area, and there are thousands. That's like one of the pressure points.
Right.
If you're looking at our routes for humans moving through, trying to get their way to America,
that's right,
trying to get to our border, like that is an area where it is deep. And if you got man and you've got eyes on in that area, what is it looking like right now? What's the reporting coming out of there?
So 2 years ago, when I was on the border and Michael Yan was down there, he was reporting, he would say, okay, you got like 7 buses heading north. Well, that doesn't tell us a lot. We got a lot of area that they can hit. But when you've got since that time a plus up of the infrastructure, because people need to realize the reason they call it the Gap is that the mountains, the Montaña del Muerte, the mountain of death, is right there. Okay, so there's a place where you just can't have roads that goes into Colombia. You just can't get roads there. Yep. So the CCP has offered up help to build roads, right? They've offered the help up. And so they are currently streamlining the process, if you will, in conjunction with the UN. And the UN has built camps there, multiple camps, which Michael reports from. And so the numbers now are 4 times as high as they were a year and a half ago when I was receiving the first information on the border. Here's an example. Michael says, hey, you got about 20,000 Haitians showing up in the next 48 hours. Okay, well, how do you know that? Well, because he's counting buses. He's physically counting buses, and he's asking people questions, and they're giving up the information. And there's NGOs that help move them through. There's also a roadmap that they spread around with their WhatsApp. It says, okay, go here. The ELN and the FARC is going to be here. Stay away from them. But if you get rolled up, send your money ahead via Western Union to Mexico City. You can pick it up over there, so you're safe again. You're going to have some payoff money. You're going to have some bribe money for bus drivers, whatever. So there's a map, and it explains to each and every one of these people how to do it on WhatsApp. They shared it. because I met these people, of which I met 17,000 plus Haitians over 48 hours with 50 National Guardsmen in the city of Del Rio last year. And, 50 people is not a lot. And we had some border patrol and some highway patrol. We were able to contain them into an area underneath a point of entry bridge. And then they slowly, infuse them into the system. They didn't go back to Haiti. The first plane that tried to take off, there was an uprising on the plane, biting, scratching, this, that. And they decided this is not safe because we took the most bad actors. When you got 17,000 people, you pay attention to who's bad in the crowd, and you bring out that agitator, and you say, "Bring them up front. We'll get you out first." And so you try to put them on there. Then another bus took off out of Del Rio. They overpowered the bus driver and just took off into the cities around there, around Brackettville, Southwest Texas. So you don't hear about these things on the news, because what you hear is Mayorkas, DHS boss. He says, "Oh, we got the border under control." Well, my dog and I, we had to basically go into hyper mode to protect ourselves from when there's 50 of us, and at the first wave was about 8,000. That's when I don't know if you recall, there was a border patrol guy on a horse, and he had his split reins in the air.
Yep.
I was about 400 meters to his right, to the west of him. And I had the dog there at a point of entry where you can remember the water kind of going over this little spillway. They wouldn't come across that all night long. They wouldn't come across it. And because we were there, and they don't care about me with a gun, but they do care about a dog barking in the night. So I told him, I said, "You got to get some more dogs down here." Right. But it's just too short of a notice, because at that point we were right a bang. They had showed up, and and this is one of the things I don't like to bellyache and point fingers, but when I know that there's 20,000 Haitians coming to the city of Del Rio, and I know this based upon an American telling me, a vetted asset, a guy that's an American, he's not in the military anymore. This is not red side stuff. This is just an American who cares about our border, that says, "Hey, bro, you got 20,000 people coming to Del Rio." I go to my command, I go to my intel people, and I say, "Hey, this is what's coming. How can you verify that, Doc?" I'm like, "I just can't. I'll tell you his name. I'll give you his phone number. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not running any assets. This is not what I'm doing. I'm trying to protect this border. You need more people over here." No, I don't know. Whatever. So we're done belly aching. Okay, that's over. It was just a hard, 48, 72 hours of work.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating to have resources, and it's what's number one thing we always value in this world is boots on the ground. The perspective of the guy that's there telling you, and you bring that information out to somebody, and they're like, "Well, I don't know, man. I'm looking at my friggin' red side, and I don't know how to verify that." It's like, dude, like we are so smart, so capable, but so stupid at the same time. It is so profoundly.
We learned this in the infantry. We learned this in the infantry, right? Intelligence drives operations. And if I send out a scout team, which I was 11 Bravo Scout. If you send me out, like where I was, I was at 25th ID and then I went to Korea. If I'm out there on the Imjin River and I call you and I say, "Hey, look, there's 17,000 North Koreans coming this way." I'm on the radio. I'm on my PRC 77 and I'm screaming at you. And your intel guy is sitting behind you at the operations center. He says, "Well, we don't have any indication of this." Well, okay, I'm not making it up. Back then we didn't have cameras to send real-time information. Yeah. So, but that's what this is like. It just is that feeling like, guys, come on. So there's an optic on the border and there's a reality on the border. Okay. If you watch the mainstream media, you're going to hear the optic. And they'll catch up eventually when the mid-level people like us, who out there like with Michael Yon and Ann Vandersteel and some other folks, these other shows that I get on, the mid-level media, if you will, when we embarrass them, right? We embarrass them. Then they do something about it. Then they go into, "Oh, we got to talk about this." I.e., for example, north of Houston, 40 square miles, the Colonia. Okay, it's called the Colony. There's a guy that developed 40 square miles of what it will be the largest trailer park in the state of Texas. It will be the 18th largest city filled with illegal aliens. Okay, that's the intent. He's going to be a slumlord kind of thing. He's already got 20,000 in there right now. We brought this up. This is beautiful. Todd Bensman from the Center for Immigration Studies, smart guy, think tank, deals with DC stuff. He hears about it. He gets the information to us. Michael Yon and Vandersteel, we go over. We get a great American, gives us a helicopter. We fly over it. We map it out. We go on the ground. We hire some private eyes. They figure out where all the money's coming from. Always follow the money. Figure out where the money's coming from. Unfortunately, the guy that's developing it's giving a lot of campaign donations to the governor. That's embarrassing. Okay. So what do? We make sure it gets to the middle stream media. Ann Vandersteel, Michael Yon. It's going out on Highwire. Other things are talking about it. Then what happens? Now the attorney general, who's a great guy, Paxton in Texas, he comes out and says, this is my first order of business. I'm going to shut that thing down. But had we not exposed it at the, that level, local action, global, global changes, as Flynn says, a little different. But if we hadn't done that, we would still be looking at this thing being populated. So that's why it's important that we continue to expose truth. Remember the F3 EAD model, find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, disseminate. Well, we can't finish anything because we don't have the authorities. I can't, but I can find and fix a location. I can then hand it to law enforcement or to the governor's, attorney general in this case to finish it. And I can't exploit because it's a bad word, but I can expose, right? Yeah. And we can analyze and we can disseminate, because I want the people of Houston to know, hey, you're about to have 200,000 new neighbors. Now, I'm not saying these people are bad people, but I can't verify it. I can't vet that.
Right? Yeah, you can't vet everybody. Yeah. And the audacity of somebody to come up with that scheme, that is ridiculous, insane. Yes. And it's just as insane as what we're doing right now, just letting trying to understand New York. Now, New York immigration's policy is insane. Mm-hmm. So way back in the day, I mean, we've had issues with immigration in this country. We all tend to think that, we're the land of immigrants. We've never had issues with immigration. I'm like, well, funny thing is, we've had issues against immigrants for a very long time. Right. And somewhere along the line in New York specifically, they made a rule about immigration and expulsion of immigrants tied to their state laws. And I forget the name, Eric something, New York's mayor right now.
Oh, right. Yeah. I know you're talking about. I don't know his name.
He's in quite a predicament. He wanted immigrants. He sent them all over here. We'll take care of all of them. Now he's finally dealing with the situation where the reality of housing, caring for, and taking care of all these immigrants is going to bankrupt the state of New York.
Yeah.
And there's nothing he can do about it. He can't go against his own state laws and policies trying to get rid of them. And it's like, are you serious? Did you not see how this is playing out? Because it's like you were talking a little bit earlier. It's what you perceive, and he can't be perceived as being anything but the absolute best leftist candidate. And it's like, it's biting all of our politicians in the ass. They want to be seen as one thing rather than just being an intelligent individual that understands that, like, hey, civil considerations. I've got to look out for my populace, my constituent, the people of New York and immigrants. And it maybe doesn't suit anybody to just let the entire floodgates open and just bring everybody here.
Brother, listen, I'm with you. I mean, my dad was an immigrant, came here legally back in the 50s. I mean, after World War II, I mean, came across the pond, fought for he was a partisan fighter against Germans, with the OSS guys, running him. So that's where I got the love for all this stuff. But, on the border, this is a great story. My E8 on the border, he's a Hispanic American guy, E8, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, downrange, paratrooper. He sat next to me one night at the border. It was a long night, about 3 a.m. And he said, Doc, he said, I see how you take care of these people when they come across. Mm-hmm. He said, I came across that river when I was 3 years old, right there. He said, I appreciate that. But he said, but we got a problem, because back then we can handle it. This is overwhelming the system, right?
Yep.
He's as American as you as I. I mean, he's American, period. And he served our country. Yep. Great. And there are people that can come across and do the same thing and be great Americans. But when you overwhelm a system, which is, we can go back to Cloward Piven doctrine back in the 60s when they said, oh, we've got to overwhelm this country so we can create a Marxist regime.
Yep.
Right. I mean, these are all techniques.
Yeah.
We've seen it
I'm
done.
so glad you brought that up. I want to interject for 2
Please
seconds
do.
because right now, currently in our administration right now, they're starting to wake up and they're saying, okay, we need to build a wall and we need to stem migration. But guess who are the number one individuals they're trying to get sent back to their country?
Yeah, the people that are coming from, countries that Venezuela. Yeah,
from Venezuela. Why specifically Venezuela? Because Venezuelans are leaving a socially corrupt government. And
bingo.
just like our Cuban Americans in Miami,
Yeah.
they won't vote for that because they've lived it. They've escaped it. Every one of my Cuban brothers, all my friends who have parents who left Cuba, they all grew up hearing the same thing. Right. We will never, ever, ever vote for that shit here.
That's
never.
Right. That's right. And we see it firsthand, when we're on the border and you have the list. Okay. So the Border Patrol has a list of countries that they'll, allow to come in for asylum. And you ask yourself when you're down there, if you know a little bit about history, this is why history is so important, is because it always reflects itself. It doesn't repeat, it reflects itself. It's so important to ask the questions because you have to consider, Mayor of New York City, I'm speaking to you now, the second and third order effects of your policies. Because if you just put it out a little bit further and think a little bit out that way, you might want to rethink your policies. Because no matter how leftist you want to be, if you don't have a city to govern, then you don't govern anything. You govern chaos. This is overwhelm the system, and the pawns, unfortunately, are the people that are coming across that are innocent. They're the pawns in this game. And there's nothing humanitarian about it. I find bodies floating down rivers. I see bodies out there in Presidio and the Big Bend, which is the Chihuahuan desert. There's no way they're going to make it across sometimes. And they just leave them. The coyotes are pushing them and they're saying, you got to come with us. I don't care if grandma just fell over and died. Okay, we're not giving her any water. We need it for the rest of the crew. This is survival of the fittest out there. There's nothing humanitarian about that. Left, just listen. I got it. I feel the same way. I take care of those people. I'm on my knees with a medic bag a lot of times, just trying to keep somebody alive on the border. I've coded people at the river's edge, little kids doing compressions on them, little babies. There's nothing we can do sometimes, but that's because we've overwhelmed the system. We can't handle it.
Yeah. People have a big misconception of what it's like. And from everybody I've talked to that's boots on the ground, actually doing the job there, experiencing it, this is a humanitarian effort. This is something where, people tend to think of Border Patrol and the people on the ground doing the job as heartless, cold, emotionless individuals. And that's not the truth. There's a vast amount of compassion and love and caring being poured into individuals, because the moment they come in contact with anybody they're hungry, they're tired, they're malnutrition, they're freaking probably haven't had water for days.
Some of them, right?
And some of them are at death's edge. When people are there caring for them, and people realize, or they tend to realize when it's too late, when it gets to this point where like, oh wow, like our guys are overworked, undermanned. This is not a pretty picture. But it doesn't help when you have Mayorkas that's going in there, and every time he goes down, it's like, it's amazing. We're doing great. The border's perfect. It's like, what are you talking about?
These are not the droids you're looking for. I got it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'm gonna use the Commander-in-Chief's motto. Come on, man. I mean, come on. It's not going to work. So it's the system's overwhelmed. We see what happened to Europe. You've seen the influx that come through, other than maybe Poland and Hungary. Everybody else is overrun from the ISIS, after the ISIS thing. I was in Jordan. We had a company down there, and we watched the two camps on the border, Hadalat and Rukban. 70,000 people in one camp, 100,000 Syrians in another camp, refugees. And then slowly, as they pushed them out, because Jordan would not accept them, they just said, stop right there. You're not coming into Jordan. And so they pushed them in. They went into Europe through Turkey and through Greece and Italy, across the the Med, and then a lot of them went in through, across the Bosphorus straight into Bulgaria, and worked their way all the way up to London. I mean, up to Sweden. And what does that do? The nefarious actors take advantage of the chaos, and those are the ones that are conducting criminal activities, rape and murder and cutting people's heads off on the street of London on the bridge. I mean, that case, that incident. Those are the things that get the attention, but nobody talks about the what it's done to the system. That we cannot provide for every single person. And really, what happens now? I'm seeing when they're on the streets now in Austin, Texas, where there's 109 right now, 109 boys that we followed. We tracked them up through a whistleblower that testified on the Hill, and she gave us some information. We got the information of some kids. These are teenage boys that came up through the border, went through DHS processing there, through Immigration Custom, and then they were released to sponsor families. Well, 5 sponsor families got 109 kids in an apartment complex. 5 families. 2 of which the families are illegals themselves. I went in, me and my Hispanic brothers, into this barrio essentially, and it's tagged everywhere, Los Cholos. All right, I think that means something about gang of boys, and so that's what these kids are doing. They're becoming gangs inside there. They're using them, and they're supposed to be at school, like the sponsor family is supposed to sponsor them with love, attention, food, water, shelter. No. They're using them to go downtown Austin and roll up cars and smash windows. And, if they can learn how to steal a car, they will. We watched it. I saw it. We walked into that, complex. That's just one story. We don't, there's 86,000 children missing right now on their books that we know about.
Jesus.
Yeah. So it sounds terrible, but we the people, right? That's why we're doing what we're doing. We the people are there's momentum in this. There's momentum. We start to see the precipice. Look, we got bayonets fixed and we're decisively engaged. I got it. But I have a belief in a higher power, and my God says this is not the time to quit. I wanted to go to the ranch and raise cattle. It's not time. We got to be on this. We got to stand to watch.
Yeah, no, it seems to me that it's always falling on the American people to find ways to work within the law, to volunteer their time, volunteer man hours to do something positive,
right.
to make an effort to stem this flow of individuals coming through. And our government, our policies are failing us. Right. And it's another thing that's left up to communities of veterans. It's left up to the individuals that live in the communities and the areas that are being affected. We don't hear about that. We don't hear about their plight on the news. We don't talk about the countless small communities that are on the border. The individuals are being affected by this. Why is that?
Even the people in those communities don't even know sometimes. I got my hair cut in McAllen, Texas every week from the same guy. And he just didn't even know what was going on in his backyard because the local media doesn't tell him. And so this is that game of you'll find out about it when it overwhelms your neighborhood. We don't want to find out that way. That's very right of bang. I mean, that's very reactionary. And here's a beautiful thing. Since we've been out, and there was a lady that she paid for 7 billboards across Texas with the Remnant A-Team on it saying hashtag either let my people go or shut the border now. And they're big areas, and it has the website on there, and people are calling in and volunteering and trying to help. And I can't, take on that many people right now. It's just because A-Teams don't have that many people, but there are other groups where I can send people to do exactly that and rotate. And that then is going to bring, I know that we cannot totally shut the border. We can't as just a civilian organization that's basically a non-governmental organization on this side of the border. We can't do that. But what we can do is offer hope. We can disseminate, like I said, analyze, disseminate, expose a lot of this stuff. And that's where I believe at our event, the America Project, they were one of my sponsor tables. We're talking about, Tom Homan, former ICE director. We're talking about Jason Jones. He's on the border all the time, former DPS captain and intel guy. He was there speaking at the event to say, hey, Doc's a real deal. He's been down here with us. We know him. Hey, we support him. So we have a good working relationship as an NGO, so to speak, with the people that are, in uniform on the border. These are important things. Because they're not our enemy. Look, maybe their bosses are, got their head in the sand. Maybe their bosses are nefarious. I don't know. I don't care. What I care about is that we have Americans that are going to do it. And what I told the first guy that's, I said, hey, if you want to help us out with some, maybe some sandwiches and put some fuel in the truck, I said, either way, we're going to do this. So you can either help us or not. I mean, that's the attitude that we've got.
And that, to me, it's, we need more organizations and more individuals involved. That's the reality of it. And it's not vigilante justice. This isn't what we're advocating for.
No.
This isn't the reality is that the media unfortunately will spin individuals that want to get involved and help into exactly that. Oh, these are vigilantes. These are individuals taking justice in their own hand. And it's like, dude, could it be further from the truth?
Do you know
but that's a reality?
Do you know Mike Glover, Fieldcraft Survival?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to work for him a little while before I went to the border, in between contracting, just for a few months. Him and Kevin Owens, who was with me in third group. And I went to work with him doing some medical training for those guys up in Utah. And there was an article that came out on some new, Washington, D.C. magazine. And it said basically Mike Glover and his band of vigilante Green Berets. Right? What are you guys doing? Mike was like, he was upset. I was, wasn't happy about it. But then I said, well, Mike, bad publicity is better than no publicity. I mean, you're teaching people how to, like the class I was teaching, critical incident aid course, teaching people how to, like, if you come up on a car crash, how to stop the bleed, right? Survival stuff, people how to purify water, do all kinds of stuff. There was no, putting together. Mike's trying to make a living. And we've got 3 Green Berets working together. And if it was 3 Harvard guys working in D.C. to conduct something nefarious, nobody would ever say anything. Oh, vigilantes. It's got to be,
Well, here's the sad and truth of it all, Doc. If you're advocating for being self-sustaining, being in physical shape, holding yourself accountable, being of service to others, you're going against the exact message that's being pumped by the leftist media, which is be dependent on the state. Don't advocate for anything healthy that's not taking a pill and laying in bed and being a complete slob. Sorry, like that's the reality of it. They go after every single individual that's self-made. 75 Hard. That's a great program that I advocate for, and I tell people all the time because it works. A lot of people that get out or veterans that get out and lose their way, all they really need is to develop discipline. And friggin' Andy Frisella, he came up with 75 Hard. So that's something that I talk about all the time and share with people. But guess what? They went after him because somebody went through and did 75 Hard, drank too much water and got. And it was like they villainize anything that gives you, the individual, power to own your life again, to do something that is not taking a pill,
right?
Not just
not
staying depressed.
Yeah.
And they go after people, unfortunately, like Mike Glover, who are advocates for being prepared, being somebody that is able to care for themselves, self-sufficient.
Yeah,
like that. And that's every Green Beret. That's every soft professional, somebody that's willing to advocate for their care, be professional. I don't need to be living off government freaking handouts. I can do something with my life. And the fact that becomes the number one enemy of the state to me is ridiculous. Like that's just horrible.
It is horrible. But I believe that people are waking up. I think people are in being enlightened. I don't, believe in wokeism. I believe in enlightened. And when you're enlightened, and the number one tactic is fear, right? That's used by anybody, gang, illegitimate government, privateer corporation, fear. Put on the commercials about this little crazy little COVID thing. It's going to kill you. No. It's fear. So we fear that which we do not know. So when we expose these things and they know, and then they look to us and say, okay, you guys are the people. Number one question I get after a talk, number one, where's the military with all this? Are they going to come after Americans? I mean, that's the number one question. And I'm like, you know what? There's an oath that we take, Constitution, right? We stand for that oath. All enemies, foreign, domestic. The domestic thing right now, we've had such an infiltration. It's chaos. Now, chaos is fearful to many people. We like chaos. I like it because that helps us do things. There's seams and gaps. But for the average person, chaos scares them, scares the bejesus out of them. So what do I tell people? Control the controllables. When my chute has a malfunction, I go to my emergency procedures, right? I go to emergency procedures. I have to do it this way. Otherwise, I don't take my hand off the stick of the plane when it runs out of fuel and go, wow, but start punching these things over here. Control your controllables. And I promise you, you'll gain some freedom, some hope. Hope is not a plan. It requires action, but you will move forward and you will get out of that fear zone. And then you won't be easily gullible. You won't be gullible to take the next, false flag or whatever it is that they're going to do. When I say they, everybody's like, well, who's the they? I don't know. They is evil. I don't have to identify it. All I have to do is do right, and right will, it'll overcome all of that. We don't know. I mean, operating in Pashtunistan, 15 different types of villages out there. You don't know if they're mafia type Taliban or if they're, straight up jihadist type. I don't know. But all I do know is that as long as my inner and outer ring of security is good, that's where we start. And that's controlling your controllables.
100%. But we've been sold this idea to stay fearful. Right. I always tell people that, and you see it on social media, you see it in your friends' text chains.
Oh yeah,
constantly fear mongering and constantly taking in all that data. Have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? Like, hey man, stay informed. Yeah, got it. This is going on. Put a red dot here in the map. Got it. Bad place over here. Move on.
Yeah,
I am not consuming their narrative. I am not consuming the narrative that it's everything, because everything is a catastrophe. Because guess what?
Right.
It only takes that one news story to be false, and then you see it. Oh shit!
Yeah,
they're full of shit.
Real shit.
They just want outrage. They just want fucking outrage.
Right. And I had a tier 1 operator I was talking to, a couple years back during all this, and he said, a really wise guy, and he's kind of a mentor to me, and I was upset about something, a narrative, specific narrative. Mm-hmm. And we call that a Hegelian dialectic. You got a thesis and an antithesis or antithesis. That's the argument. CNN, Fox News, boom, 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 boom. So when you jump on that bandwagon, you now are allowing something to synthesize past you that changes your freedom. So when you get emotional, this is what he told me, Doc, when you get emotional, cleave it, just cut it off. Just like you said, annotate it. It's there. Focus on the 50-meter targets, maybe out 200 meters. Okay. Start knocking those down, those things, those tasks that you got to do. And we've done this our whole career, but we're still human beings. We get emotional. And so I've just gotten to that point now, almost like a Zen with it, really, where, okay, I got it. Okay. But we've got to focus on this, it's kind of like combat, the younger guys, and me, my first real, ticks, 12th May 2004, my truck gets blown up in a complex attack because I got most of the antennas on my Humvee. We ran over a 155 that was buried in the road, command it. That's one of those moments where you're way right of bang, and you come out, and your heart's going, and you can't see, you can't hear, you got auditory exclusion, you got tunnel vision. We'll take that guy from 12 May 2004 and move it to my last combat deployment 2014. Totally different guy, because I got a lot of experiences in there that says, hey, slow down, take your own pulse first, breathe, pay attention, turn your head, break out of this tunnel vision, and you learn all those little things. But it takes good judgment comes from experience. Unfortunately, most of that comes from bad judgment. So now but if you don't have all that judgment, then you follow guys like us, not to follow us physically, follow us, but listen to our experience so that you can understand that we're not any better than you. We just happen to have been through a lot more.
Exactly.
Right? In chaos.
Yeah. It's the one thing I constantly tell people, because I'm sure you get it too. You get that text message from your civilian friends like, oh man, there's bad stuff going on. I'm like, hey, take it. Here's what I want you to do. Take a knee, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. Now I want you to go to your living room, pull back the curtains, look outside, right? Nothing's changed out there, right? Yeah. Okay. That's your world. That's the world you're living in. You stay connected to your community.
I mean,
you're gonna be okay.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, my
that's
guys, thank goodness that I do have a bunch of guys like us that work with me that I still feel like I'm in that team room environment, but that's our job. That's our task.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes us force multipliers. I'm I sold into, I bought on the Green Beret program a long time ago, unconventional warfare, all that. It will never leave my body. I'll be 99 years old and I'll still be telling people, this is how you know this. But honestly, that there's an expectation there, and that's why they call it, not only quiet professional, but also like the Linda Robinson wrote a book about Green Berets, the Masters of Chaos.
Yep.
That's a reason. It's not bragging. Look, if you put me up against a SEAL and say physically, these guys are machines, right? But if I'm not going to go do a halo or a free fall into the ocean and go up on an oil derrick and set a charge on it. Just not going to do that. It's not my thing. But my thing was going to places and being a very small number and affecting something at a very strategic level. When I used to watch E7s conduct negotiations with generals from foreign countries on foreign internal defense operations, that's when I know, when I was a young captain doctor, I'm like, they charge these guys with a lot of important things.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that. Right. And I learned it. It just took me time. It was the best thing, for me to go to the Q course to learn that. Like, wow, that's why these are the people that pick,
we're communicators.
Yeah.
We're thinkers. We are, and that's something that I have to remind a lot of guys when they transition out and they get to that small moment of the unknown and they're desperate. Oh, what am I going to do next? I'm like, dude, you have done way more. You've gone through so much more than looking for a next endeavor. You are going to be fine.
Right.
Now, you just got to remember who you are, remember where you come from. And we all come from various backgrounds, but your true lineage, the true thing that made you a powerful entity, is always going to be within you. You're going to always have that. That's why you're going to find us in high performance, high achieving career fields,
right,
because we understand the chaos. It's the home life that's arguably just causes us so much problems and so many issues.
Yeah.
The chaos and the unknown. We're great at that. We know how to juggle that. We're masters of that.
Yeah.
But when we come home and it's like, I don't know how to keep up with this house schedule and dealing with the complexities of a wife.
Yeah.
That's the things that we need to learn in. And that's the beauty of this part of my life, is being able to guide, mentor, and coach individuals. It's like, hey, dude, like, you're a master of chaos. You just have to put your life at home in the different frame. You'll understand it soon enough.
Yeah. And of course, here I am, wearing all my team gear, just happen to have it on today, but I don't identify as that anymore. Right. I'm an American, I'm a Texan. I'm a guy that helps people. I don't use that as my identity, right? It's not my job anymore. But what it gave me, prepared me for this moment. And that's why it's so important not to waste that, because so many guys, if they don't have a purpose, I was there. I was depressed. I was in my trailer. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't have a job. I was supposed to be on the border for another 2 years. I'm like, okay, well, I'm currently unemployed now. What do I do? Lost my medical license for doing informed consents. Imagine that. But it's okay. I mean, we're gonna roll to the next mission. I mean, there's multiple lines of effort, so that's what we do. And that's the thing I tell people. Like, there's going to be moments when you're down, especially in the military. Bros, check it out, sisters. You got to reach out, because I am not above that same feeling of not wanting to be on this planet. I am not above it. We all feel like we have failed at something. We go through this thing called imposter syndrome sometimes. What is that?
Oh yeah.
It's not that I'm faking to be a Green Beret. It's not the stolen valor stuff. Imposter syndrome is, I'm that kid that was like 18 years old standing in a foxhole, in Fort Benning. Like, I'm not really prepared for this moment. I'm charged with some important things. I don't know if I'm worthy. That's the thing. I don't know if I'm worthy. You are worthy, right? Whether you gained some weight after you got out, you drink too much, whatever, you argue with your wife, you can fix those things now, but permanent solutions to temporary problems is not the answer. And, I deal with this all the time. Guys calling me just anywhere. I'll drive across country if one of my brothers calls me. I mean, that's just the way it is. But there is a purpose out there. And if not, come see me on the border.
Absolutely. And on that note, what's the website for Remnant A-Team?
Okay, so right now the A-Team website is being put up, but I'm using drpetechambers.com, my personal website, where I put my lines of effort. So it's drpetechambers.com with an S, and that has lines of effort to include the Remnant A-Team. Because I've been on the legal fight on the mandates. I've been going around the country speaking, doing some other things in Texas, but my main one now, focus primary, A-Team.
Oh yeah. Awesome. If you guys are interested in following Doc Pete Chambers, you can find him on Instagram. You can link up with him on LinkedIn. Are you on Twitter as well?
I am on Twitter, Doc Pete Chambers, and then on Truth and Telegram. And Telegram, you just go to my website, pop on there.
Yep. Get on his website. Check his stuff out. Doc, thank you so much for being on here today, brother. It's a pleasure to reconnect, man.
I know.
It is. I can't tell you guys at home just how powerful this guy is in person and what he means to so many other Green Berets. So if you have any questions about what's really going on the border, or just want to link up with Doc to get his insight on how to join the Remnant A-Team, hit him up. Doc, again, thank you so much for being here. And we'll catch you all next time.